people, this video is going to be about Mac astrophotography. It's a 100% Mac applications and tools for astrophotography, and I hope you like it. We'll get right into it. Okay, so this is Mac astrophotography, and it's 100% Mac software. It's not anything that's been like crossed over from Windows. I'm not using Bootcamp, and I'm not using Parallels as some Mac people may know about those things, but so it's 100% Mac, no Windows. So go on. And so what's the important steps of astrophotography you have to prepare? So what I'll be showing is like the software that's available for all the different stages. So if you want to check moon cycle and weather, there's a program called Astrospheric, and it's a web-based app. It's free, and it's just actually it's just a website, and it's there's also an app that you can get for your phone, and this one's great. I've started to see a lot of people use it. It gives you the information that you're looking for. So I'll show that a little bit later. And the next thing you want to do is you want to select your target after you've checked the weather out and the moon cycle. And in the target planner, you have tools like Planetarium. Sorry, not Planetarium, Telescopius. That's another web-based app. And you have Stellarium, Carte du Ciel, K-Stars, and SkySafari Pro. And I use SkySafari Pro because it's really nice, and it also will control the mount nicely for pointing the telescope. K-Stars, I've done a video on K-Stars, and it's really pretty nice actually. It's got some good stuff. I like it a lot, but it's not very professional. And so when they were releasing updates, I would find things would have a bug, and it got a bit frustrating. So I went away from them and started using something else. So the other thing is when you want to frame your target, again, Telescopius, Stellarium, K-Stars, and SkySafari Pro. So I'll show you a little bit of those apps. Okay, so now this is Astrospheric, and it has a nice quick reference. These three bars give you the cloud coverage, the transparency, and the seeing. And basically the idea is you want all these things to be dark blue. So as you can see, it's not very good weather right now. Then it gives you like the sun cycle and the moon cycle, so you can see where the moon is when you're out at night. And it gives you wind speed and direction in this line, and then temperature and dew point. So if these things get too close together, you know you might have some dewing problem. And so quickly you can see your conditions. Basically, if you want some kind of deep blue, you want at least average in all these categories before going out. So right now, presently below average transparency, so it wouldn't be any good. And it has a couple of other features. It has a long range forecast, and it has also like this legend here, and you can quickly, if you forget what something means, like the color code, you can go here and it gives you help. It tells you what everything is, and then you go back, and it's very useful because when you're first starting to use this, you might forget what the color codes. Gives you your moon cycles, your location, and a couple of nice features it has. If I go into this mode, I can look at my light pollution. So if I'm trying to pick a site to go to, like I can pick a site out here where it's nice and dark, and I can drive about 3 hours from Montreal and get to a very dark area. But typically I go in this area, which is about like a medium, not bad. It's like rural sky. And the other thing you can have is jet stream. So this shows the jet stream, and wind speed. So its jet stream is not right now. I don't know what the dark is, but it shows the white, the blue here, which is fairly low, and then it gets into high wind speed. So it looks like it's fairly low jet stream. I imagine black is very, very low. There's like no wind here, but in the jet stream,
It's gonna pick up.
should be, yeah, it might be higher, but this will help. This will kind of define your seeing. So if we get back to the forecast and we see our time of day and what it looks like, and we can see that the seeing is above average. So actually, if we were to go out now, we'd have nice, good seeing. And I guess that's what we saw in the jet stream. It was very dark and not red like bad jet stream.
And you click in the play.
Yeah, and you can actually
See the cloud.
see it moving over the time period that it's over this time period. So that's really helpful. I find that I'm seeing a lot of people start using that. So that's good. That's for starters. Okay, so that's Astrospheric, and go to Telescopius. So this is your planning. This is another web app I found that I found really useful. It used to be called DSO browser, and he changed it to Telescopius. And he's got a lot of features, and now I even share some of my pictures on this site. So let's go check that. Okay, so this is Telescopius. And right away, I'm actually logged into my account, and I have my weather and my location. And here it shows quickly your dark period for after sunset and after sunset and before sunrise. So it shows you here 9 p.m. is basically the start of when you can start taking pictures, and 4:36 is when you pretty much have to stop. So it's really gives you good sort of boundaries of when you can start and stop. And here it gives you a couple of quick targets, shows you how they're transiting, where they are during the night sky, and you can take a look at those. But if you really want to search for something, you can, for example, search for deep sky. And then you can have your search parameters. So from when those items are visible at night, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. I've got here 10%, at least 10% high. Sorry, at least 10% from what is this? Over 10% for at least 2 hours. Over 10 degrees for at least 2 hours. So it has to be above 10 degrees altitude for at least 2 hours. Actually, I usually do more like 30 here for at least 2 hours, and you see it's picking up new targets. So now it's got some different targets. So this is a better list when you do one of these searches, and then it has to be at least 90 degrees from the moon. But you wouldn't have to worry about that normally if there's no moon. So this is a quick way to find stuff. And for example, Markarian's chain, it comes up and basically it's got good viewing. It's well in view for most of the night. So you could do Markarian's chain. So then we go back. And here they have display of people's pictures. And there's actually quite a few features on here. Oh yeah, the telescope simulator. So if I pick the target here, Pelican Nebula, and then you see the telescope simulator, and this shows my field of view of my telescope and on the Pelican Nebula. So you can see how much you have to rotate your scope, and you can frame your picture and everything, and get a good idea of how your picture is going to turn out. So yeah, so these things are pretty useful. So that's Telescopius. So SkySafari is a nice planetarium, great for planning. It's got a lot of features. Of course, it's cost a bit of money, but it's not that much. And it also works well with doing go-to command of the telescope. So I'll show SkySafari. Okay, so SkySafari, as you can see, it's a very nice to look at. It's got all kinds of objects. That's Elephant Trunk, Iris Nebula up here, and we'll get back to this because we'll use this to command the telescope. So I like to use this. One reason is because it's got all the object database. It can work offline. I can get all my objects, search for what I want to look at, and then command the telescope to go to it. And it's a very nice interface. So that's why I use it. Okay, so next thing is capture, basic steps capture. The mount control software. There's K-stars. As I said, there's a video for that, which I did previously. And again, very nice software, got some good features. One of my friends uses it just for doing his polar alignment, and I've moved away from that. But I would suggest you try it. It's free. It's good. And CloudMakers is what I'm going to show you here. This is what I use now. And you buy it in parts, like Astro Telescope for the mount control, 31. Astrometry for plate solving is free. And then I use SkySafari Plus again to do go-to commands. Okay, imaging the target. Again, we have the K-stars and using a Raspberry Pi with StellarMate. So this StellarMate is software that runs on the Raspberry Pi remotely. So Raspberry Pi is like a little black box computer, and it's got Wi-Fi, and StellarMate's the software that runs inside. And K-stars is your laptop application.
But these basic steps are when you're gonna take the picture.
Yeah, this is the capturing.
After all your setup.
After you've set up, okay. Yeah.
And all your
after you've set your
scope
up. Your
systems are ready.
Yeah, and for me, I polar align in my setup with my polar scope. But you can get, for example, Nigel has a Richie Chrétien, and he needs a good alignment that he uses K-stars to help him align, whereas my scope is a short focal length, so I don't worry about it too much. And again, CloudMakers again, Astro Imager and Astro Guider, and again it has something called Indigo Sky that runs on a Raspberry Pi for the remote control. And we'll show that CloudMaker stuff a little later. Well, we'll go show it now. So here's the mount control and camera control and multi-star guiding. So I'll show you those 3 apps for that. And their latest version 4 has multi-star guiding. You can get development builds for the version 4, and it's quite good. So far it's looking very good. I'm starting to use it now. Even I bought version 3, but I'm starting to use version 4, which is development stage right now. So one thing before I get to it is I wanted to show this, and this is how this version 4 of CloudMakers works. So on the left hand side you can see the applications running on your laptop, and then it's communicating via the cloud, via Wi-Fi to your Raspberry Pi, which is in the center of this figure. and the Raspberry Pi is directly connected to the mount and the cameras. So um, so I have my Raspberry Pi running, it's actually mounted on my scope, connected to everything, and the only thing going up to the Raspberry Pi is a power cable. So the difference with this and some of the other software is this one, when it's going through Wi-Fi, it uses agents on the Raspberry Pi to drive the mount. So when you disconnect from Wi-Fi, the agent will keep running and it'll keep running the guiding software, for example, and the agents will talk to each other. So basically, the agent is very similar to the application, but it's running essential features on the Raspberry Pi. So in this picture, we see this is kind of the guiding loop. So the agent is taking pictures from the guide camera on the bottom part, and it goes up to the agent that drives the mount on the top line. Is that clear?
Or yeah, it's clear that it's going out of line and it's still working.
Yeah.
And you can control your mount.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have the Wi-Fi.
If you're not connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a nice feature. That's and it's the other nice feature about it is your guiding loop is very short. It's just from the mount to the camera to the box, which is all sitting on the scope.
And all this without offline. I mean, all of them works.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all working.
So the Astro Guider, the Astrometry.
Yeah,
all of them all.
Yeah.
All work.
Well, the astrometry doesn't require an agent because you usually do it before you start anything.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but the guider and the imaging camera control and the mount control is all in the Raspberry Pi with the agents.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll go and demonstrate the CloudMakers now. Okay, I'm connected to the Raspberry Pi, and I'm going to connect to Indigo Sky that's running on the Raspberry Pi. I'm going to connect to the agent. So it's connected to the agent, and the agent has connected to it, the mount. There's a driver that sees the mount, and I'll select that mount. So now you see the crosshairs shows where the mount is, and I'm pointing at Polaris. So basically this is my park position. And as well, I have, just to show you this control panel, I'm going to set, there's auxiliary agents, so I'm going to connect to the auxiliary agent on Indigo Sky. And there's a pocket power box. And I can see my temperature, my humidity, and the dew point that the pocket power box is monitoring. So this is like a little weather station. And the pocket power box also controls my dew heaters, and it will automatically turn them on and off based on these settings, based on this information. I don't really have to set anything; it's all automatic. And further info, it tells me the voltage of the battery that I run everything off of and the current to draw. So very good at this. I think it's a really good thing to get, this pocket power box.
But what this is doing?
It's just like a weather station.
Okay.
But it also has heater connections. Like I have 2 dew heaters on there, and when it decides, it will turn them on. Like if to prevent dew.
This system in reality is just to control the temperature in your telescope.
No, just this pocket power box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's just one of the auxiliary features. You can have other auxiliary features, but in this case, that's what I was just showing, that you can actually have other auxiliary features. You can have a dome control. You can get your information from GPS. You can have joystick control. So it's a full-featured software. It's,
okay. To
control the mount.
Okay.
Yeah, and basically that pocket power box is giving you the environment that the mount is working in. So yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it shows the mount there. And if I say, okay, I want to, so now I'll show you SkySafari, and we'll command the mount. And we'll say...
And they don't talk each other?
It's going to talk to it now. So now I'm going to say connect to the mount. Like if I close this, there's a little like connection to the telescope.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I'll connect. Oh wait, I have to turn on the... Yeah, so here, this is the protocol for talking to SkySafari. So back to SkySafari. Now we'll connect to it. There we go. And you see now SkySafari is pointing to Polaris, basically the park, showing the park position of the scope. So now I can say, okay, let's just pan over a little bit. And we'll go to Alifa and go to there it goes. So you can hear it. I've actually got this working in my living room here. Unfortunately, there's no stars to look at, but so this just shows you the whole setup. So now, and if I say, I can also go back to Astro Telescope, and you can see now that it's pointing to the star we went to. And if I want, for example, I can go back to Park here. Sorry, wrong button. Let's go to selected position, Park. There it goes. And it's done. So that's so once we're set up. So once we're set up there, we can set up our imager. And in the imager, we can we're not going to see anything today, but in the imager we also have astrometry. And when we take an image, we point the scope, we take an image, and then we run it through the astrometry, and it will tell us exactly where we're pointing, and then we can sync that to the telescope mount control, so that the mount knows where the mount's pointing exactly, and and you keep sync points and get better accuracy of where it's pointing. So that's the astrometry. Okay, so here we're at Astro Imager, and I'm going to connect to Indigo Sky on the Raspberry Pi. This is the agent, and it's seeing two cameras, my imaging camera and my guide camera. So we'll connect to the imaging camera, and we're ready. So now I can control the temperature of the camera, my exposures, and all that stuff. So this app has, I can do single, I can do loop exposure, I can do batch exposure, and it also has here the sequence. So I can do many sequences, and I can change the exposures as I go. I can change all the offset gain, whatever I need to do. So it's quite capable. And so this has got again, it's got astrometry. What else we got? We got one with the camera. We'll capture a quick image here. But,
so actually, all these softwares that you are using are connected to each other.
Yeah, they're kind of interconnected. Sometimes that poses problems because the other software I've seen things get hung up, and it's really frustrating. But this one is been designed around Apple's Bonjour, like it's like a connectivity protocol, and it runs very well. So here we just captured a quick image, and here we see the histogram. Of course, it's mostly dark, but it gives you some information, average level, median. So these are helpful. You can see where sometimes you can use this for doing your exposure. So, and also we have this is black and white or color. Sorry, this is black and white, and if I put on auto gain, shows you kind of a whitish, but in the color image you'll see some color offset. But when you see an actual image, right now this is quite blown out because of the auto gain. It's actually normally like this, but you can look at your image and in color.
And you can even edit your image in there?
Yeah, you can actually...
like doing the...
Yeah, you can actually, there's a couple of things because these are Astro cameras. You can select a window like this, and you can say, basically, I'm going to only image in that window. You don't usually do that, but you can do that. You do that with the guider, so I'll show you that later.
Okay.
So let's connect the camera and the guider. So first of all, we connect to Indigo Sky, the agent on the Raspberry Pi. Select our camera, so this is my guide camera. And then we have our settings, these are my default settings. And then the guider, you can either guide from the camera or you can guide directly to the mount. So I can select the mount and we'll guide directly to the mount. And down here are all the settings. These are all default. Probably I don't have to do anything for this. I've used it once and it seemed to work pretty nicely without doing anything. So, but you can tweak these things if required. So once we start looping the image, well, first of all, we can take a single shot, and then we can select a window like this. Oh, that's an old image there, so let's select the shot. Okay, and then we can select a portion. And say there's a dozen stars in here, 10, 12 stars. And then we will frame that window that we saw. There you see, it's now expanded into the full view. And then we can loop on that, or we will just simulate a guiding here where it's repetitively capturing and correcting. And if you had single star, it would show you the motion of the single star and the error correction and stuff. But again, this would be multi-star, so it would be averaging out the motion of all the stars that it finds in the field, and that way it gets rid of bad seeing. So multi-star guiding is the latest thing, and this thing has it, and it should help.
What is it doing right now?
Well, right now it's just looping. Yeah, I'm not guiding or anything, because if I try to guide right now, it's just gonna say, oh, nothing's working because I don't have a star I don't have stars to track on, and I'm not really tracking anything. So, but this is how it will be refreshing the screen, processing the image, and then correcting the mount position. And so the multi-star is very easy to use. You don't have to really do anything. Whereas when in the single star, which is the old method, you have to pick a star. You have to get the right star, not too bright, not too dim. You want to get the good SNR, and then that star is still susceptible to atmospheric noise. Whereas when you use multi-star, it looks at all of these and it averages out the motion of all the stars in an image, and gives you a much better error on your reading, and then it corrects. You'll get a better correction. So So that's it for the guiding. So this is the latest, guiding. That the PhD2 now has this as well. Um, and everybody's saying just use it. It's good. So those are the three main tools for from CloudMakers. So it's Astro Telescope and Astro Imager, this guy, and I don't have an image here, and Astro Guider. And this basically handles all your stuff for the night. And there's a couple of utilities. This fits preview, so you can see an old image I had, a single fits image, where you can get a preview and you can kind of see how it's going, and you can look at the header in the fits data. You can look at the histogram, and so this is a helpful tool. And this has been updated too. I've seen the update, and it's much nicer, and it actually has the same layout as these tools, same kind of color and everything, and it looks like another one of these tools. And then there's even a third-party tool. This guy wrote a third-party tool, and this is like something, actually there's an app on your phone that runs like this. It's called Indigo to Go, and it will basically connect up to see how things are going. So if you disconnect your laptop and it's running on the agents, this thing can run on your phone, this same app, and it will get information about how the agents are, what's going on, like how the capture is going and how the guiding is going.
So in reality, we have 4 tools.
Yeah. So I'm not sure why. Okay, Indigo Sky. Yeah, it's going. So there we go. So sequence is stopped, cooling is off, the mount's not tracking, guiding is off. It will give you updates here, and you can do an emergency stop with it. And if you want, you can even get preview images. So here's the guider, should have there you see the guider's preview image. So it's a nice little tool somebody wrote to work with this stuff, and you don't have to get back to your laptop. You can just use it from your phone. So it's pretty nice. Okay, so that's the major part of the capture, and let's go back to the, let's go back to this.
To our presentation.
Yeah. So the next thing is post-processing, and you have to do image calibration and stacking, and these are the tools I found for doing this on the Mac. And Astro Imager is actually what's used by the RASC, the robotic telescope, and the tutorials they have on that. They use Astro Imager, but it's a bit manual. It's not completely manual. It does very good work, but you have to tell it all the files, and it's a little more work than Astropixel Processor. Nebulosity, I used that when I started, and it's very good, but it's also fairly manual, but it does a good job. And it's nice because actually its help file is like really nice, because it teaches you basically about astrophotography. And Astropixel Processor, which is very good. It's automated completely. You just give it the files. I think even now I can probably just look at all the files in the directory and figure out what to do. But it's quite automated. So I can just show Astropixel Processor. And let's see. So this is Astropixel Processor, and this is the one that Mark Ricard showed. He did a tutorial on this at the club, and a very good tutorial. That's what made me buy it, and it's even improved since then. So this one is almost completely automated. You don't have to really do anything. As long as your cameras are supported, you can just go into this load section and load your lights, your flat calibration, dark flat, and bias. Um, and then you could actually go all the way to the last stage and go down here and say integrate, and it will do everything automatically. And it actually does a very good job. You can, and at the end, you can do some color calibration based on the star colors. And actually, when I get this into my like Lightroom or something like that, I really don't touch the color anymore. It's done a good job of the color.
And what about if you have you can choose the amount of images to stack?
Oh yeah, when you load, you just load everything you have, and it will match up the lights with the bias and the flats and stuff. It'll you can, I think you have to tell it
How many
which is
stacks?
which, yeah, but it also can recognize, because your camera, when you take these images with your camera, you can tag them, and so it will recognize it. So it's quite automated, and very good tool. It's really makes things easy. So yeah, the next process tool in the process is your image processing. So um, Affinity Photo is a new tool that's out, very low cost compared to using something like Lightroom or Photoshop, and it accepts Photoshop plugins. And now the latest version, they added astrophotography stacking, which is very nice. But if you have Astropixel Processor, of course, it's the best tool for that. But Affinity Photo, I've seen the guy do a tutorial on it, and he did the stacking and everything, and it was pretty good. So I can show you Affinity Photo, and I'm starting with a photo that out of Astropixel Processor, but I really didn't color balance it. I'm actually not sure what I was doing at this point, but I'm using this photo for the demonstration, and brought it into Affinity, and then I did some adjustments. So I'm gonna just take you quickly through the adjustments I made. What I did is I take the original photo, and then I make a copy, and in that copy I can do a couple of things before I get going. And one is what's built into Affinity Photo, and that's remove background. And it basically balances, removes the background and balances the color based on the background color. So I can do that, or I can do star shrink with a plugin made for Photoshop, and it's understood by Affinity Photo. So in this particular case, I didn't do star shrink, but I did do the background remove. And when I did that, it kind of balanced the color somewhat. So you can see how the colors are separated here, and I'll turn on that background, and you see it came together. Then, then you can do a fine color balance, and this order of adjustments is very similar to what's in Lightroom. Lightroom is one of the best tools. It probably is the best tool for photo editing, but in Affinity Photo, it has the same adjustments in a Photoshop style. Each one of these adjustments is done as a layer adjustment. So over here we have layers, and we have adjustment layers, and each layer I can have an adjustment. And at the end, I have these live filter layers where I can do like a sharpen or a noise reduction, which I do at the very end. So I use the adjustment layers, did a fine color balance, and then I do the shadows and highlights adjustment, and this usually comes into play because I might have some saturation here, and actually. What I tend to do is do the contrast adjustment first, and then it starts to blow out the at the right and cause saturation. Then I go back here and pull it back in with the highlight adjustment. So what I found is this is almost a formula type image processing. The first thing you want to do is really this contrast adjustment. So I would, as long as I had the histogram kind of in a good spot, this would be, say, 20%. If it's not, I can move it with brightness or exposure. But if it's in approximately a 20% area, I can just start stretching it with contrast. So when I do that, you see the contrasts build up, and sometimes you will get saturation here, in which case I will fix it with the highlight adjustment. So in this case I didn't have to do it, but I have it here as a matter of course, one of the adjustments. So then the next thing I can do is vibrance and saturation. So I can punch up the color a little bit so you see that. And then I do a levels adjustment to adjust the black level. And then I do noise reduction, go into one-to-one view of the image. Oh, I'm at that now. This is a full view and one-to-one or 100%. And then I do a noise reduction. And lastly, I'll do a sharpening. And I might either use unsharp mask or I might use clarity. And in this case, I use unsharp mask. So here there you see it sharpen up a little bit. So this is my standard processing list, and it's most of my photos after they've come out of Astropixel Processor basically go through these adjustments, and you end up with something pretty nice. Now I can do this in a matter of minutes, let's say 15 minutes, and end up with something pretty nice. And if I want, I can get really fancy. You know, there's this Affinity Photo will do many of the things that Photoshop does. It has tons of filters, distort, colors, sharpen, blur. You have your layer adjustments and live filter layer. So you have masking. So it has all these abilities, and I'm nowhere even close to mastering this, but I find that this basic set gives me the kind of control that I have in Lightroom, which I no longer use because it's you have to get a subscription for that now, and I wasn't prepared to pay that. So Affinity is a much cheaper way to go. So that's Affinity, and that's the last part of the tools for the Mac. Once you're done here, you've got your picture. And thanks for listening, and thanks for watching.